Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Baghurst, and today's guest is David Buchanan. David, welcome to the show. If you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of background about your coaching history and where you are today.
Sure. Well, I'm the son of a high school football coach. That's got a lot to do with it. My dad was a head coach at two schools here in Central Kentucky, and then I grew up a lot of ways want to be like him, and then I've been fortunate the past 30 years was able to be a head football coach at Paris High School, and then at Mason County High School, and then I just finished up in my hometown at Mercer County High School. And hopefully I can find a job for 2023. I just, sometimes you sort of tell, a change might be beneficial where you are. And, I just thought I need to let somebody else have a shot at Mercer County. And, certainly wish them the best. And I think, though, it's part of being a good coach sometimes is you sort of know, hey, maybe your clock's run out and it's time to let somebody else try.
Well, you've been coaching for many years, and I think it's fair to say you've seen a lot in coaching. What have you seen over the decades that you've been coaching that has changed in coaching that maybe you've had to learn along the way?
Oh, man, I tell you, that is a tough one. I think on the surface, the biggest thing that's changed, I think it's been the social media, because I think that what's happened is if coaches don't watch it, they really are going to fall into a comparison trap. And they're going to be chasing their tails because they're going to see, hey, this program's doing this one's doing that. And I think it's tougher for a coach to stay focused on what exactly it is that they need to do. And I think that's the biggest change, because I think, in the past, we would still talk to other coaches, but we were probably talking to coaches that had a similar philosophy, and we knew our way and we didn't really see a whole lot else. And right now, we really get bombarded with other ways to approach problems. And there's a lot of positives to that. I think it's like every other part of our society now. The key is being able to discern and sort out information, what's valuable and what's a distraction.
All right. So I know you're very active on social media, and a lot of coaches are. How do you sort out what is valuable and what isn't? How do you determine what's white noise and what you should be applying to your program? Do you have any strategies or ideas for that?
Yeah, I do. For example, Kurt Hines out in California. I like his content. I see that his philosophy as far as how to run a program is very similar to mine. So, Coach Kurt Hines is a guy that I'm going to follow. I'm going to listen to. Strength and conditioning is just blows up on social media. What I do there is, we've got a really good strength and conditioning coach at Mercer County that we hired a year ago, Jeremy Carlson. I sort of look at the guys that Jeremy follows, and if Jeremy thinks they're good, then they're probably guys that I would listen to. But I really sort of look for connections, people that are connected to people that I know are really good. And I want to stress this: they don't have to be like me. I'm not looking for people that are like me, but I'm looking for quality. And sometimes, for example, I feel bad. I can't even remember his name. I found a coach that, he doesn't run for conditioning. They do crawls. And he said the crawls, saves their legs, develops their core. That's really different from me. I come from an era of, man, a guy messes up, we're going to run them until their tongue's hanging out. And
Right.
so, again, I'm not necessarily looking for somebody that's like me. I'm looking for people that have been successful. I think it sort of goes back to this too. Whenever we're hiring assistant coaches, there's two things. Do they love kids, number one, and do they love football? And so I seek out people that are like that, people that love kids and love football. And if they love kids and they love football, I can learn some. If they don't love kids, they're probably not going to be a good resource for me, and I'm going to look elsewhere.
Well, two things I want to follow up. One, you didn't mention my name when we talked about following quality, so I'm a little disappointed there. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
see, I just found you about a month ago, but now since then I have been. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. I'm just giving you a hard time. The second thing, though, you talk about loving kids, loving football. How do you find that out from an interview? Because most of us can put on a good impression for an hour or two.
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of truth to what you said. That is the case. I think you got to do a lot of research. I tell you what, my defensive coordinator we hired at Mason County many years ago, Sean Thompson. I actually talked to his Sunday school teacher. His Sunday school teacher was a good friend of one of my best friends in coaching, Chuck Smith. And the Sunday school teacher was Jackie Smith. And Jackie told me before I interviewed Sean, she said he's really shy, he's really quiet, but said he's a great person and he's very, very intelligent. So I interviewed him, and he was really shy and he was really quiet, but there was enough there that I put it with her information that I knew that he was going to be good. And I think you can sort of tell when you talk to coaches, when a coach talks about the things that make them excited or the things that are priorities. I think that comes out. And a lot of times too, when I'm interviewing, one of my coach questions when I interview is, who's a coach that's been a big influence on you? And if their influencer is somebody that cared about kids and cared about them, then I sort of know we're heading down the right path. If it's more into maybe schemes or things like that, then I got to dig a little bit more. But I do think that both of those have got to be a requirement. You got to love football, and more so though, you got to love kids.
Yeah, let's continue down this train of thought. You've obviously been in a lot of positions of authority in the sport, and with that means that you probably didn't always get the best people every time. I'm curious how you determine whether somebody, once they've been hired or once they've been put in a position, maybe isn't a great fit or who you thought they were. What kind of process is that for you to essentially move that person on? Because the reason I'm saying this is because in coaching, we see a lot of coaches just move around. I heard this term yesterday about, this mediocre coach always seemed to find themselves on their feet. And they moved around to literally, I got told, 20 different schools in 25 years. Mm-hmm. So they had a 25-year coaching record, but they were at 20 different schools. How do you know when that person isn't that one that you really want to hang around for long term?
Well, I think when you work with somebody day to day and you're nose to nose, because you really can't avoid each other. I mean, a coaching staff, if you're going to do it right, you're very much like a family. So who you are is going to come out. And as far as that goes, who I am is going to be revealed to them. And they're going to have to decide, hey, this guy's okay or he's not. In the past, what I've done, if I had a guy that was struggling, we would have a conversation at the end of the season. I'd say, hey, we need to address A, B, and C. Say if we get that fixed, hey, we're good to go. If we don't get it fixed, we're probably going to look at a change. Generally, after those conversations, most guys don't stay. They'll go ahead and stay because I think what they realize most of the time is they're not a fit and they don't really want to be around me because they realize, I can't really be who I am in this situation. Now, I will say one thing that I've changed on, and I like this a lot better. And since I've done it this way, I haven't had to let anybody go. I've really moved away from the postseason evaluations. If I've got an issue, we're going to deal with it right now. And I'm not going to let it wait. I would let things wait. And what I would do is every coach had a job description. And the evaluation was, I went through their job description. And if they did their job, then we were good. If they didn't, then we would address it. But I get a kick out of, because it'll happen in my job. They'll walk in with an evaluation form. And I'm just sitting here thinking, why don't you just get my job description? To me, that just is a lot cleaner evaluation. But since I've done that where I go to it and I deal with it I remember last year on a Wednesday morning, we would practice before school, and something happened in practice. I wasn't happy about it at all. We walked off the field about 7:15 a.m. At 7:30 a.m., we had a meeting, myself and the three coaches that I had a concern with. And we got it ironed out, and we all got on the same page. And then, I might see something else I'm not real happy about. So we have a meeting. And you know what? A lot of times, this is what's really cool. If you can hire the right people, and I've been fortunate to have some wonderful assistant coaches. If you hire the right people and you have those conversations, a lot of times it turns out I'm like, oh, okay, you knew better than I did. You got this answered. We'll do it your way. And those are really the best moments, because when the conversations end like that, to me, that says you've really got the right guy in the right spot. And in fact, I'm probably happier after those meetings than the other ones where I sort of say, "Nah, we got to go another direction." I prefer where we go along with what that coach wants to do.
I've been to a fair number of coaching clinics and coaching conventions and so on over the years. And as somebody who's former president of the Kentucky Football Coaches Association, I'm sure you have too. What I do see a lot of, unfortunately, is I see a lot of coaches who go to these events and maybe spend more time having a good time than learning. And you're nodding your head and laughing, implying that you've seen this too.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do we get more coaches interested in getting better in every aspect of their career, their job, and their life, when I see so many of them prefer not to?
That reminds me of a funny story. My staff at Mason County, we're going to the AFCA convention in Nashville. And I told them going up front, I said, now look, this is a little more professional event. So you don't need to wear jeans. You need to wear khakis, wear a button down or a sweater, but you need to pick up your game a little bit. And this is going to be more professional than your standard coaches clinic. And it was, and I was really excited about it. But while we happened to be there, apparently a couple of coaches got in a fight and went flying out a window. And so one of my assistant coaches to me, he says, Coach, he said, a couple of those guys went flying out the window, but he said, I think they had their khakis on. I think they were okay. I said, okay, well, then we're good. But, I really think this, and let me be fair. I think when you go to a clinic, there is a place for fellowship for your staff. Absolutely. And that needs to be part of it. But I think there's got to be some balance in, and most of the really good coaches that I've grown up with, their approach to a clinic is, hey, I want to go find one or two things that are going to make me grow and make me better. And I think that's what most of them do. I think what you're talking about is, I think there's a couple things going on. First of all, I think that can sometimes be the coaches that sort of think they already sort of know what they need to know, which I think we can all grow and improve. I think that's part of it. And then I think the other part of it is just like your student in class you have that doesn't connect your assignment with them being successful in their future. And I think for a lot of coaches, they have a disconnect between going to the clinic and this is going to make my team better. Mm-hmm. And I think if they can make that connection, I think they'll be a little more attentive. But, hey, I did have another good story. One time our coaches association was getting ready to have a meeting at the University of Kentucky. And I'd been in Danville visiting my mom and dad, and I'm trying to sprint back for our association meeting. So I called one of my assistants to say, hey, has the meeting started, all this kind of stuff. And he says, well, he sort of hem-haws around, and then I hear a lot of noise in the background. I'm like, so what is going on there? He said, Coach, we're at Keeneland. They were at the racetrack. So he wasn't even at the meeting. So, and turns out he was a great coach and won a state championship in basketball. A great guy. Just him and the guy with him was also an excellent coach. They just they sort of had enough of football. They were going to go watch the horses run.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience over the last few years looking at coach education. And of course, we provide it at FSU, and seeing the students we have who want to improve, and then trying to recruit students to that program. A lot of them, and I think it's fair to say, look at it and go, well, that's very expensive. I have to pay money out of my pocket with a limited stipend, especially in schools, a limited stipend for doing what I do in order to, maybe get a stipend after I get this master's, maybe. And then it takes me years and years and years to pay off. And I think perhaps the counter argument to that is, if you go and get professional development, you become better as a coach. And if you become better as a coach, you are going to become more successful, and more success translates down the road into perhaps better opportunities, more opportunities, and so on. So I wonder whether coaches just look at the immediate of this will cost me now, rather than the investment of, okay, I'm going to be a better coach for the next 30 years.
Well, and to be fair to those coaches, and I'm talking about more so in Kentucky. Now, Georgia and Alabama are different. I'm not as familiar with Florida. But in Kentucky, the coaching stipends monetarily are, I mean, most of them are really bad. And I think what I would love to see happen, and this has been a source of tension with my bosses over the past 30 years. This is something really important to me, and my bosses have not always enjoyed these conversations, and always turned out real well. But I think along the lines of what you're saying, I think especially assistant coaches, especially in the game of football, they are vastly underpaid.
Agreed.
And
I think in any sport.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I don't talk about the other sports because I really don't know, and I try to. But they say the average pay, which I would say is probably correct. I think most high school football coaches assistants make a nickel an hour. If you're the head coach, you're probably up to $1. And I agree with you. I just it's a really strange thing, because I think our culture is very much into sports, and I think football's the number one game in the United States.
I agree.
But it doesn't translate into assistant coach pay. I do have one theory on that in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky traditionally has been a basketball state. In basketball, I think it's easier for one coach to coach a team than it is one guy to coach a football team. And to me, I don't know this, but I think that a lot of assistant coach pay issues in football is sort of driven by, traditionally, basketball has been the driver. And I think there's a mindset that if you have a good head coach, we're going to have a good program. And any good high school head coach in football will tell you, man, you got to have the right guys around you. And if you don't, it's not really going to matter a whole lot how good the head coach is. He's got to have those great assistant coaches. And that's sort of why I go in and fight those battles. I have good men that deserve to be paid properly. But the other thing is, and I would tell my coaches this too, I like you, and I want you to get a raise, but I'm not fighting this battle for you. I'm fighting this battle for the kids, because I want the kids to have the very best football coach possible. And you have to remember that every decision you make has got to be driven by what is best for the kids.
What have you learned along the way? You've been coaching for many years. You've seen many ups and downs, and seen transitions in culture even. What have you learned along the way that if you're coaching you as a young coach now, what advice would you give them?
And I think the younger guys are better at this than I am or was. But here's the irony of it. My faith's very important to me. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I don't cuss. I don't cuss the players. But I tell you what, I can be extremely confrontational and in your face. And my next job, I want to be a lot less confrontational. Now, I'm not going to say never. I'm not going to say never, because I still think there's those moments that it may be appropriate, and it also may get somebody's attention to where they can improve their attitude, their performance, and those things. But in general, when I look back on it, I really feel like there were too many times I was confrontational. There were too many times I was really over the top. And again, I'm not saying that I'll never do that again, but I want to be a lot less like that. And I want to, I always put it like this. For the 20th century, I'm very much evolved. For the 21st century, I'm sort of a dinosaur. And I don't want to completely abandon that edge. I still think there's a place for it. But I want that edge to come out more sparingly, if that makes any sense. I don't want that to be so much. I think after a while it becomes less effective, and I just don't like. I want to do better in that area.
Yeah, well said. It's definitely a challenge in heated moments and in an environment where there's a lot of excitement and pressure
Yes.
that comes with a football field. When you talk about football as a whole, it is, as you alluded to, the premier sport in the U.S., right? It is something that everybody grows up watching and playing. When you coach on the field, how do you handle the pressure of what's going on around you, knowing that, and a lot of times, especially high school, you're just a few feet away from fans, and that could be home or away. You're being analyzed constantly, right? There's reporters picking you apart because of X, Y, and Z that they may not even know about. How do you handle the pressure of that and stay calm and balanced without kind of just saying, you know what, this is not worth it anymore?
Well, I think that goes back to, loving the kids and loving football. Because I love the kids, I know, in fact, I'm a lot more even keeled on Friday than I am in practice. In practice, if I snap or I'm confrontational, that's okay. I'm not going to do that as much in a game, because to me, we're sort of a family, and I don't really want people to see me. I mean, it happens some, but I don't really want them to see me chewing a kid out or a coach on the sideline. We're a family, and we need this. I know this sounds bad. My oldest son, he's 26. He had a spurt. He got spanked every day for a year. I mean, he was bad, but I didn't spank him in front of everybody else. He got spanked in the privacy of his home and that type of deal. But and then the other part of it though is sort of the way I don't wear a headset. I'll call the offense, especially when we're playing fast. I just really, as much as I can, I try to coach like I'm still playing quarterback and it's 1982. I try to be so into the game and the flow of the game that, I don't even care. I remember this one time in high school. I'm getting ready to get into the huddle. I look to the sideline and my girlfriend's talking to her old boyfriend. And for just a second, I'm like, what's she doing? What is going on? And then after that, I got back in the huddle. I was fine. And I didn't care if she was talking to her old boyfriend. I'm playing football. And, that's just sort of my mindset. It's like my mindset, I'm totally into that game. I love the game. I want to do a great job for my kids. And I just, I tell you what, really sort of the people that are critical of a high school head coach and verbally do so loudly, I sort of feel sorry for them. I sort of think they're pathetic. I'm not saying you can't disagree with what a coach does or think he's not a good coach or a bad coach, but man, if you feel the need and the urge that you have to yell that out, I'm like, man, I feel bad for you that you let something like that get under your skin so much that you sort of had to act like an idiot in public. But that's the thing. A lot of times the people that are critical of me, I mean, sometimes they make me mad. I'm not going to pretend they don't, but a lot of times I feel sorry for them, and I just, I don't know. I think I feel bad for them more so than I'm mad at them. I'm just like, are you kidding me? But that's sort of where it goes.
You have a family, you have a full-time job, you coach. How have you balanced that, all of those things, so that you still have a family, still have a job, and still coach? It's that age-old question. We see it time and time again where coaches just say, you know what, this is too much for me, I'm done. And coaches, the life expectancy of a coach in schools is actually quite low. How have you stayed in it for so many years? What have you done to make sure that you've been successful at balancing everything?
Well, the number one thing I did is Stephanie is wonderful, my wife. We've been married for 30 years. She's incredibly patient. And I mean, she's just absolutely wonderful. I could not say enough things nice about her right now because she's an incredibly unselfish, giving person. The other thing that's a big part of it is that for both of us, coaching has really been a ministry for us. Mm. It's a way that we can love our kids. It's a way that Jesus Christ can love people in our family, our community, our players, our teams. And so we don't look at it. We have not looked at it like it's really a football coaching job. It's been a ministry, and it's been a ministry that she and I have done together, and really our whole family. Now, having said that, 30 years of that and 30 years of, to be quite honest, there's a lot of times I don't cope well. There's a lot of times that I've brought things home, and I'm not going to lie to you. It has taken a toll on our family. And if I never coach again, my family is okay with that. I want to coach again, but my family would be fine if I never coached again. But, I've had a family. The biggest reason I've had a family, though, is because my wife, Stephanie, is incredible. And we always knew, I mean, yes, we want to win championships and games and things like that. But we always were in agreement that we're doing this because this is our way to serve Jesus Christ. This is the way that we can love our kids and our community. And when you start there, then it takes on a whole different dynamic.
What advice do you have for coaches? I mean, we have coaches in our program who are looking to get better. We have coaches who watch this, who want to get better. And it's always beneficial if we can learn from others instead of making the mistakes ourselves and then having to work our way through them. What advice, maybe 2 or 3 things, do you have for coaches now that they should know and they should learn from your experience?
Well, I think one thing that really helps, if you're a young one, I worked for 2 excellent head football coaches, Larry French and Roger Greneisen. They're excellent, and I learned a lot from them. I almost wish sometimes that I'd worked for one other coach. I will share this. I've not really made it a whole lot public right now, but I don't even think I want to say the school yet, but I'm very fortunate right now. I'm doing some scouting for a top-notch, high-level football program right now. I'm doing some scouting. I go visit their practices on Monday. And I want to contribute to the program and do a good job scouting and so forth. But a lot of why I'm doing it is the environment is very different, at least as far as public, private, size, things like that. It's a very different environment, and I want to learn. And, one thing for me is, that even after 30 years, as I shared with you earlier, I want to be a head coach again. But I want to be a whole lot better than I was the 30 years before. So, I think you get there by working for really good coaches. I think you get there by visiting programs that do it great, and they do it the way that you think is best. if I visit a very successful program, but they don't love their kids, that's not going to fit me. I don't, that's not going to be beneficial. So I think finding programs that have a similar philosophy is good. And then I guess the last thing I would say is I always try to approach it like this. I like the things that we do in our foundation, but I'm constantly looking for ways to do what we do better. And I would say that to those young coaches. Say, look, it's fine if you're sold that what you're doing is the best. That's fine. But can you find an even better way to do it? And I think that's a good approach to growth and getting better.
That's great. I'm taking notes, David. That's why my head's down. I got to make sure I get this. Thank you so much for joining me. If somebody has a question for you, maybe listening to the podcast or watching this on YouTube later, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, I think earlier you had shared my email address, coachdavidbuchanan@gmail.com. Interesting you bring up that this podcast. Actually, we just started it last week. I'm doing a podcast with one of my coaching buddies, Chuck Smith. Chuck was a very successful coach here in Kentucky, 6 state championships. And we release that podcast every Thursday at 7:30. And we try to make that entertaining for football fans, sort of behind the scenes thing. But we also try to make it to where young coaches, if they're listening, they might pick up some things that would help them in their growth and, building a staff and things like that. But I love talking about football. I've got a lot of room to improve. And the other thing, the thing I guess that makes me a little bit different, I've got a picture of my dad up here coaching when I was 4 years old. This is all I know. This is it. Coaching high school football, trying to be a leader, trying to help kids be successful. This is all I know. The maintenance guys at Mason County used to tease me. They would say, Coach, you can't fix anything because all you got in your head is football. And I said, yeah, you guys are right. There is nothing else in there. And, what I'm getting at is there's a lot of topics I can't help you at all, but if it's got something to do with high school football or leading, and, you asked me about something that would help. When we put together our KFCA elected council and we found a way to play football in 2020, I didn't make a move without calling Coach Chuck Smith or Coach Jim McKee. And Jim was at Scott County. 2 old friends, 2 very smart, wise coaches. And I would say that's another thing. If you're a young coach, you need 1 or 2 people in your circle that are really good at what they do, but they'll also tell you the truth. And, Chuck and Jim, sometimes they can be just flat out mean. And it doesn't bother me because I know they're on my side. But I think 1 or 2 friends like that will really tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it. I think those types of people are very valuable. I really do.
I agree with you completely. Well, thanks for joining me today. And of course, for all of you watching, just a reminder that each and every week we have somebody on our show. So be sure to subscribe, whether you're watching, wherever you're watching, to be honest. But on behalf of myself, Tim Baghurst, and David Buchanan, thanks so much for watching.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me, Tim.